Yeah, good.
Go ahead.
All right. For those of you that are in here, I'd like to thank you for coming. And for those of you that are watching, either watching on the stream or watch later, I appreciate it. The title of my talk is "You Thought We Wouldn't Know: A Reflection on OSINT." If you're not familiar with OSINT, it's open source intelligence. It's used primarily in the InfoSec industry to do reconnaissance and information gathering, either during a penetration test or prior to a penetration test, for techniques like spear phishing and other similar methods of the attack. But the methods that the penetration testers are taking are very limited in scope. They're told they can't do stuff to this individual, they can't do stuff to that individual. Kids are out of scope, husbands and wives are out of scope, whatever the case may be. The malicious actors and criminals out there don't care. That information actually has value to them. So the title of my talk is "You Thought We Wouldn't Know." I'm a systems administrator by day. That's my day job. I'm not here representing that company. I'm here representing myself. On the side, I also do penetration test work with Georgia Vyman at bulbsecurity.com. So I do OSINT for pen tests, and the reason is because I love it. I started thinking about the fact that there were weaknesses in the information that people put out there and the information that is already out there. And compiled together, it paints a pretty dark picture. So that going forward, George is always pushing me to get up and talk, track a test conference, submit a CFP, and she told me I should submit a CFP here to BSides Las Vegas. And I'm like, well, I don't want to talk about some of the stuff I've already talked about before. Let me talk about something that I actually love and that I think is important. So my talk is not just aimed at people who might be in the InfoSec industry and are penetration testers and want some other ideas and avenues on how to approach it. It's not just for employers or companies who are worried about what dangers OSINT may apply to their environment, but also as a wake-up call to the real situation that goes on with OSINT as it applies to real criminals and the type of stuff that they do with that information. So recently in the news, everybody's really on this whole thing. We don't have any privacy anymore. And it's really dangerous. You can't say in public that you don't have any privacy, because then that violates, may open you up to Fourth Amendment issues. So I'm not going to say you don't have any privacy. I'm going to say that you may want to question how much privacy you have and how much of your information is being leaked by others that's not on your behalf. That being said, information is being leaked on you that's not on your behalf. Some of you may have a grocery card or a discount card, and that card is used to track your purchases. A husband and wife have a newborn baby, and they go to the store and they buy 1-month diapers. Then they go and buy 3-month diapers. The next thing they know, they're getting coupons and advertisements in their email for the next set of diapers, for baby food. They didn't ask for that. It's being given to them because those marketing companies are tracking that information. But it's not just those companies. It's Google. It's Yahoo. When you do a search, they're tracking your search terminologies. The problems with Google Mail, that Google's monitoring people's mail. There's a story that I saw last year on the internet. A guy, his wife sent him an email about the fact that she had just been in an accident with her mother, the grandmother, and the baby in the car. And as he's reading that email, there's a Google pop-up ad for diapers. He's like, coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. So the data that's out there about you is being sold. It's being shared. And you don't have any control over that. And that doesn't even include the fact that the stuff that's already matter of the public record. Your property taxes, what kind of car you own, the records with the BMV or DMV in your state. All of that stuff is a matter of public record. You've been arrested for a crime, it's a matter of public record. You go to a hospital, some of that stuff's actually the stuff that's not. I'll give you an example. Somebody gets injured in a car accident, it becomes part of the news, it becomes part of the public record. It's out there. You can't hide the fact that you were just in an accident. It was on the news. So again, this is information that's out there. And then of course there's the big huge scare right now. The NSA in prison. They're listening to your phone calls. They're monitoring your texts. They're trying to find out who you talk to. Who cares? They want to find out who you're talking to? They're just going to go on your Facebook page and see who your friends are. They're just going to follow your Twitter feed and see who you're talking to on Twitter. They don't have to listen to your phone calls or your text messages. People are literally giving the information away. They don't have to search for it. Then there's the issue with social media. People do things that can actually impact their lives. It can cost them their friends, it can cost them their jobs, it can cost them their lives. 13 posts that got people canned. These are pretty extreme, the article that I got this from. And there are regulations in different states and different environments in different countries that say what an employer can do. Maybe an employee can post something on Facebook, and in that state, the employer has no recourse. In other states, the employer may actually have a recourse. Or it can get you killed. A post on Facebook about the actions of a Mexican cartel got a woman beheaded. The video posted on YouTube because of what she said on the internet. She's a reporter, she made a posting, so the Mexican cartel retaliated lethally by cutting off her head and posting that video on YouTube. So this information is out there that you post or is posted about you. Could cost you your job, could cost you your friends, or can cost you your life. So with regard to research and getting the information, how hard is it? How difficult is it to get the information? Assuming that you know next to nothing about somebody, and we're going to discuss potential criminal activity in a moment, without knowing that much about anybody, given just a couple small pieces of information, how much more information can you get and how hard is it to get it? The impetus for the story, like I said, is George is always pushing me to talk. So she's like, submit a talk to BSides Las Vegas. I'm like, okay, I can host it. Right around the time she made the suggestion, a bank got robbed in the Fort Wayne area. I live outside of Fort Wayne, Indiana. A bank got robbed in the Fort Wayne area. With regard to banks being robbed in Fort Wayne, there are hundreds of bank robberies. Not hundreds globally, not hundreds nationally, not hundreds in Indiana, hundreds in the Fort Wayne area alone since I moved there in 1996. It appears, at least in my part of the country, we have a lot of wannabe Bonnie and Clydes. But the methodology that the people used in the bank robbery struck me as completely stupid. So these criminals go to a bank, follow a teller home, hold her in her own house and kidnap her, take her back up to the bank after hours and have her open the vault and give them the money out of the vault and then leave her in the bank. Be discovered later. I don't know about you guys, but that seems pretty darn stupid. We've all watched CSI and CIS Los Angeles, but the police and criminal investigators have some pretty fancy tools. You're going to leave DNA evidence at the crime scene. You're going to have your face potentially exposed to video cameras, the car you were driving when you came to the bank to follow the teller. This is just stupid behavior. And then I'm going to talk about the fact that, wait a minute, we're a cashless society. Banks don't have cash on hand. And when they do, it's not a very large amount. And a small town bank has very little. Tens of thousands of dollars, not hundreds of thousands, not millions. When they need a large cash amount, they contact another bank and they have an armored car bring it over. Most banks have very little cash on hand. So these criminals took incredible risks for very little gain. But this wasn't isolated. I'm like, wait a minute, so these people did this in Fort Wayne, Indiana. How many other times has this particular attack been tried? Was Fort Wayne an isolated incident, or was it a copycat situation? Well, it turns out that in Sanford, North Carolina, a couple years ago, in 2011, this very same type of attack was used there. Bank of America, in September 5th, just a few months before the bank robbery in Fort Wayne, again, similar attack method was used, kidnapping a bank employee, trying to get him to give the money. So maybe the people in Fort Wayne were just copycatting a technique that had already been tried somewhere else. In none of these cases did the kidnapper succeed, or did the bank robber succeed. They got away for a short period of time, they all got caught. So for very little potential financial gain, these people robbed the bank, risking many, many years in prison. And Fort Wayne, Indiana is near state line. If you ever bank across the state line, you can get life in prison. So for maybe a couple $1,000s, these people potentially risk a life in prison. Now, we have pretty bad situations in our prisons. I hear stories about them on my dinner table almost on a daily basis. Why risk this for a couple $1,000s. If you want to be a lifetime criminal and spend the rest of your life in prison, then sure, go ahead and go out and rob a bank and just stand there waiting for the cops to show up. But if you're trying to commit a crime, if they were trying to commit a crime and succeed and get away with it, then the methodology that they used was stupid. So I'm going to discuss some alternatives. What would happen if you were hit by a smooth criminal? Not a stupid criminal. Went to the bank, potentially got captured on camera, then followed the teller home, kidnaps them, takes them back to the bank, and again exposes DNA evidence, visible evidence of faces or voices, all kinds of stuff that can be used in the criminal investigation. What if they acted a little bit smarter? So, smarter would be not to rob the bank by going to the bank physically, but to convince a high-ranking bank executive that it was in their best interests to transfer you a large sum of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, and provide such a credible threat that they had no option but to comply. All without ever physically exposing yourself to that person. No DNA evidence, no photos, no video, nothing. But using the information that's already out there, provide a credible threat that they then believe. Remembering that these criminals, if they don't get what they want, will kill you. The Mexican cartels, they would kill you. The Russian mob, they would kill you. The Cubans, they would kill you. You're talking about millions of dollars and you say no, they would kill you just to prove that the threat was credible to the next person that they went to. Again, they have no real risk in the situation. The risk is all the bank employees' problem, and they get all the reward. So, again, most of the stuff that I'm going to talk about with regard to open source intelligence is used in penetration testing. It's the same kind of methodology, the same kind of tools, and it's type of scenario that during a penetration test we would come to a bank and say, this is why this is a risk. This is how we got this information. This is how we would go about using a spear phishing attack against you. But I'm going to take that just a few steps further. So I started out by, okay, so I'm talking about a bank robbery. I need to find a bank employee. So I did a Google search, and that's just too random. Let me do LinkedIn. LinkedIn on a major bank in Indiana and see what I get. So I get a list of their employees, and so I come across Jenny B here, Chief Operating Officer, Quorum Credit Union, and where she went to school at. I have a picture, a first name, a last initial, the employer, and where she went to school. How much information can I get given just those 4 little facts? I don't even know her last name. Can I really find Jenny Boudreau out of all the people in the United States? Well, it turns out that Jenny Boudreau is so nice enough to post on a Quorum Credit Union Twitter account. And in the Twitter account, she mentions, not only did she go to Ball State, she also went to Butler. She lives in Fishers, Indiana. And if you'll notice, the first tweet there is the fact that on June 7th, it was her birthday. So now I've added another piece of information. I've added an additional school. I've added her date of birth, not the year yet, but the date of birth, and her current city of residence. There's also an awards photo there in the corner. It says that she's worked there for 13 years. Lucky 13, so proud to be employed there. It's the best place, one of the best places to work in Indiana. I'm sure it is. So researching those school connections, I come across the fact, remember that she went to Ball State. She's on the Ball State Alumni Council Executive Committee. I wasn't sure if I had the right Jenny Boudreau with the Twitter account. There's possible there could be 2 Jenny B's at Quorum Credit Union, and maybe I didn't have the right Jenny B. But this one that went to Ball State, the woman on the back left there, second from the left, is Jenny Boudreau. She matches the picture from the LinkedIn account. So let's do some more searching around the Ball State website. A little Google search. Vice Chairman Jennifer G. Boudreau, class of 84, a home address, a home phone number, the spouse's name, and an email address. I'm maybe 10 minutes into my searching and I already know where the person lives. I know their spouse's name, and I have an additional email address. Well, she got an award in 2008 for an Award of Achievement from the School of Business. I'd like to say congratulations to Jenny on that award. So let's go to some other sites. I use a lot of different sites. I'm going to tell you, I don't pay for anything. They're going to tell me, they're going to give me this little piece of information, then they want me to pay for the rest. Well, I'm not going to. So we have Jennifer J. Boudreau of Fishers, Indiana, married to Mark Boudreau. We saw that a couple slides ago. She's age 51. Well, her birthday is June 7th. She's 51 years old. We can count back to get her birthday year now. It's not that hard. And we have J. Alexander, Jennifer J. Alexander. So I'm thinking that might be a maiden name or a prior name. We're going to probably assume maiden name in most cases. So I go to another site. Guess what? Some petty information, but they are corroborating everything that I've seen so far. And they're adding a prior employer. They're confirming that this person went to Ball State University. They're confirming the age again. So I have corroboration, and I have some piece of information. Each one that I can use to search a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper. So I jump over to My Life, and we get a little bit more. We get a partial phone number now. It's so nice that they X out that phone number. I'm sure they think that it's not available on the internet, but we'll find out. And they give me some other information. Well, I could have done the math to find out she was born in June 7th of 1962 if I'd taken the age 51 and counted back. But My Life was so kind to tell me that I don't do the math anymore. They just gave it to me. So, and here's the fact that she lived in these prior cities like Indianapolis back in '94. Here's another site confirming the exact same information. We now know June X of 1962. Well, I already know it's June 7th. Thank you. And we get other previous addresses. We get a confirmation that she lives in Fishers, Indiana, and we get a map. They won't tell me the exact address, but they give me a map. And you can kind of zoom in with the map. And you get to the point where you really don't know, but you can find the neighborhood. At this point, I'm not going to go and delve into the person's neighborhood. We'll do that a little later. So I jump on Spokio. Spokio is one of the first information sites for OSINT that I started using, and they give me a lot of information. They want me to pay. They really do, but I'm not. But again, I have more corroboration of the age. That partial phone number again, they want to pay for it. Her marital status, I can click to see available results. They're going to want me to pay. Her occupation, she works at Farm Credit Union. I already knew that before I came here. And the fact that she lives in Fishers, Indiana, again with a map. And another address, something at yahoo.com. Family background, Jennifer Boudreau married to Mark. A picture of her neighborhood. I didn't zoom in on the neighborhood earlier. Spokio did it for me. I don't need Spokio to zoom in on the neighborhood. They gave me an estimated home value. Estimated home value of $373,000. It's on a golf course. We're going to assume that Jenny and her husband Mark are doing pretty decently. Refine the phone number search. Well, I didn't need those other sites to give me the phone number because the Ball State Alumni Association was so nice of giving me that address and that phone number earlier. But if I do a lookup on that phone number, I found out that yes, indeed, that phone number is the landline that goes to that address. And again, there's another map that can be used again. So I didn't go too deep into Jennifer. I'm going to go a little deeper into my next one, but I wanted to show you. At this point, I only have about 45 minutes to an hour invested in the research. I know the woman's name. I know she's married. I know the neighborhood she lives in. I know the estimated home value of the house she lives in. The next one, I'm going to go a little deeper. Just say, could I do this again? And how hard would it be? So we're going to do it again. We're going to jump on LinkedIn. We're going to find a nice lady named Angela Beck. She's the banking center manager at Old National Bank in Muncie, Indiana. She also went to Ball State. I just love Ball State. They give me so much information. I didn't have to do any searching for the address. Ball State was nice enough to give it to me. We'll see if they do that again. This time, I don't know if it goes, but on Jenny B, I had no connections to Jenny B at all. I live in Indiana. I'm sure that 6 degrees of separation. At some point, I'm pretty well connected to somebody in Indiana. I'm 3 connections away from this person, so I can't get their full details like I could with a 2nd degree or a 1st degree. But at least I could manage to get a little bit more. I actually got the last name with this one. I could have made friends or made connections with a banking recruiter that would have tied me to more banking employees. It may have got me more 2nd degree connections, get more information. But again, I want to show that I'm not having to go to those steps. I'm not having to actually try and get into their industry or pretend to be in their industry to get the information. So, good old Ball State. I do another Google search with Angela's name and Ball State. And I find out that Angela was on a panel discussion about the dangers of using credit cards back in 2009. So she's at least aware of security. I wonder what she would think if she knew that she was the subject of a security talk right now. Would it make her a little more aware, or would she want to be more involved in the discussion? We would hope that she would want to be more involved in the discussion. So, Angela Beck. Well, one of the sites that I used earlier was a site called BenVerified.com. BenVerified.com was advertised in my area on TV, usually in prime time or just after prime time, as if you wanted to know about a blind date. Somebody was like, hey, you need to go out with so-and-so. Well, you could go to BenVerified.com and find out who their employer really was. If they said they were a doctor, you're not a doctor, you do construction. They said they had no kids. You got 3 kids. And they said, well, I make $100,000 a year. You make $20,000 a year. So that was BenVerified's marketing concept. So like Spokio, BenVerified's one of those ones. Okay, let's see if I can get a blind date. Let's see if I can get a blind date with Angela. So Angela Beck, also known as Angela Hopefield, so now we have prior name, maiden name. She's 43, she lives in Muncie. Dang it, there's some guy named Vincent Beck in the picture. There's my blind date. So I go to another site, using the same type of search criteria, find Angela Beck, find a picture of a child. We're going to assume this is hers. This picture is going to help me in a few moments. We confront the employer, prior education, that she went to high school in Portland, Indiana. And I go to Facebook looking for Angela Beck's, and a picture from that other site that probably pulls data from Facebook, or Facebook sells them the data. Again, data mining. Either one company's pulling it or the other one's selling it, but the information's out there. One of them shared that Facebook photo from the Facebook profile to that other site. So I see this same picture, so now I have corroboration it's the same person. This Facebook page is actually linked to the person I was just looking at. Vincent got the stomach flu, I got a sinus infection. Chase is running on both of us, he's a nice boy. Vincent's obviously the husband, Chase is the son. More information, each little piece adding up. Again, if I'm, yes?
Just for grids, is that Facebook page public that you can read the comments? Or
Yes, that's it. I've given a talk before my ISSA chapter about the dangers of social media, the digital footprint explored. And in that talk, I literally went out and made friends with people via Facebook games to try and get connections. During this talk, about I use no paid information, and I don't try and become Facebook friends to get them. This is information, if you went to look for this page, you could get it. These people are not securing their Facebook profiles. These are high-profile people in banking industry. You'd think they'd be a little more honest, or a little more respectful in the way they do their profiles. So I go further on the page, and we get another picture of Angela. She's got a slightly longer hair. We get a picture of the husband. We get a picture of the child. Again, now, if a real criminal organization was interested in this is very important information. They don't have to go follow the people to find out who they are. They have pictures that they can use. So I go to My Life again, one of the sites that I like to use, and again I get more confirmation and more corroboration of the same data I've already seen. And each of it a little more piece. I didn't have a birthday or birthday. 43, we can do the math. She was born in 1970. We have her prior residences. We're going to find out whether or not I can get an address in one of those residences, and whether or not I can get her birthday as well. We'll see. So just see what I can do. I want to look at Vincent as well. I'm like, this time I'm not just going to look at one of the parties. I'm going to look at the spouse because that's other information that may actually be helpful. And I find corroboration again with partial phone numbers. I find out that he's a year younger than she is. That he also lived in Portland around the same time that she did. I'm going to guess they were childhood sweethearts, went to the same high school, J High School in Portland, Indiana. Probably met each other young, got married, and now they moved to Muncie. And it looks like they were following maybe her career as opposed to his. Those are judgment calls. So I go to this site, and this one, again, corroborates the same information. Now it gives me a map that I can zoom in on, shows me the neighborhood, and while I don't have the exact street address, it gives me the neighborhood. They want me to pay for her email address, they want me to pay for her phone number. Oh, she was born in January. I don't know if you noticed that. It was January blank of 1970. I had the 1970 before, now I've got January. So doing some Google searches of Muncie and her name, Angela Beck, I come across a flyer on the internet for a rummage sale. This flyer, as the arrow indicates, shows her email address at oldnational.com and a phone number. Phone number that I didn't have before, one of the ones that one of the sites wanted me to pay for. And now, thanks to Westview Elementary's rummage sale, I don't have to. They gave me the phone number. But it turns out that Angela is very, very dedicated as a parent. She's very involved in her child's life. Information that a malicious person, a criminal, would use to threaten her. Her child obviously matters to her. Her family life obviously matters to her. And that Westview Community Association, well, they gave me an address, or they gave me an email address and phone number. It's kind of handy that I know the exact school that her son probably goes to. And I can find the neighborhood that school belongs in. Well, so let's do a little search on Westview Community Association. Well, they gave me one phone number back up. So they gave me this phone number, they gave me the 4645 on the rummage sale slide. Thank you, Westview Elementary. We rummage sale. They gave me a 4645. But the Westview Community Association page gives me two other numbers. Not the 4645, but two other numbers. Along with her email address at oldnational.com. Once again, confirming that I definitely have the same Angela Beck that's the employee at the bank that's so devoted to her child. She's heavily involved in school activities. So much so that she was the president of the Community Association. So here's another flyer for them, from them, once again confirming the 4645 number and the email address. Old National Bank. Here's their street address. That comes in handy, the 110 East Main in Muncie. But it also gives the phone number, and this wasn't as blown up as it was. The phone number is 765-254-3900. One of the phone numbers on the previous side was 3930. It doesn't take much logic to figure out that the 3930 number is one that's within the PBX system at the bank, and it's her extension at the bank. So the 3930 is obviously not her own phone number. The 9670 number is a mobile number. According to Verizon, the 9670 number belongs to a mobile phone. Vincent Beck has a home phone of 4645. So that number we saw, the 4645 one, that's been her home phone number all the time. And thanks to this profile for Vincent Beck, I have a confirmation. And they didn't give me the address before, but this one, Intellius, was nice enough to give me the exact street address. So I jumped to a couple of the other sites that do data mining on a regular basis, and I come across, again, Angela Beck at North Winthrop Road. They don't want to tell me the address. Intellius just did for Vincent. I don't need to get it for Angela's profile. I already have it. And again, more corroboration, more confirmation that each of the pieces of data that I've seen are valid information. It's not falsified, or if it is, it's falsified pretty deep, because more than one entity is claiming the same information. I jump over to Spokio, and Spokio is pretty much the same thing. Spokio wants me to pay for the money. They only want to give me a partial phone number. Thank you, Spokio, but the school association already gave it. And as you'll see, that they're going to give me a street map of where the house is located. They won't tell me the exact street address because they want to pay for it, but they'll show me the address that's located. They'll give me a map. And they make Spokio makes an estimate that this home is valued at $600,000 to $800,000. Muncie, Indiana, I find that very hard to believe unless it's in one serious neighborhood. But the house is right off Main Street. Well, Main Street, that's kind of interesting to me because the bank address for the bank is at 110 East Main Street, and she's right off of West Main Street. I'm going to guess, just as a matter of course, that her commute is very short. The distance of time, the time that it takes for her to get from her home to her place of employment is a very short commute. Would have been handy to know for those other bank robbers that were like in Fort Wayne, Indiana, that followed the bank teller home. Family background again, Angela Beck, she's married to Vincent Beck. So to go to Vincent Beck, again, I'm going to do some more cross-corroboration. Go to Vincent Beck, it shows me the same kind of information. Again, partial phone number, a partial email address. We can extract probably a V Beck or a Vincent Beck or, typical naming schemes to try and do other research later if we wanted to, based on image.com. If a partial address, doesn't matter, we already have it, thanks anyway. And the relatives found, lives in Muncie, Indiana. All this other information they want me to pay for that I already have. But again, the same kind of Spokio map, shows where the home is located in Muncie that I can zoom in on. Shows the previous locations that Angela's didn't show, but his does, from the other residents in Portland. And again, Spokio estimates that the house is worth $600,000, $800,000. And again, I say no. Family tree. Angela's profile didn't include these two people, so I'm going to infer that Manfred and Ilona are Vincent's parents. That's just going to be my assumption. But a truly malicious actor, a criminal, might use actions against those two elderly people to influence the actions of Angela and her husband. So, but if I go to the actual map that Spokio provides me, satellite view of the house, well, now I see the house is only worth $111,000. So I don't know why they said it was worth $600,000, $800,000 a moment ago, when this link clearly shows that it's worth around $111,000. And it shows the neighborhood. But I'm not going to use Spokio's Bing map to get a view of the neighborhood. Thank you, Bing, but I'm not a big fan of Microsoft. So anyway. Let's go to Google Maps. Using that 107 North Winthrop that we so nicely got from the one link about Vincent, we have a front view of the house. Pretty decent home. It's not fancy, but it's a decent home. Heavily shaded. That can come in very handy to somebody who was going to threaten physical harm, that there's some decent cover around the house, some decent shade, so that in a late evening or afternoon, you might not be as easily seen. So that house value of $111,000, where does that place Angela and Vincent with regard to their neighbors in their fellow community? Are they very well off? Are they extravagant in their wealth? What is their lifestyle? Well, it turns out that an estimate of $111,000 puts them about $36,000 higher than the median home value in Muncie, but right about on par with the median value in Indiana. So their home value is about the same as the average house in Indiana. But in Muncie, while it's not a super expensive home, it's on a higher end. It's in a decent neighborhood. So we're going to use Google Maps. Again, we're going to get a good view of the overview. Like I said, we showed the front view a moment ago with all the shade. And here we can see there's tons of shade. There's lots of ingress and egress routes here for a potential attacker to use. There's the presence of Main Street right there. While it's handy for Angela's commute to work. Also, if I was to expand out the map to show accesses to highways, shows ways that attackers can either get in very easily to the neighborhood or get out of the neighborhood very easily. Oh, and the elementary school that she's so proud of that her son went to is just down the street too. So let's do some research to find out. According to Spokio, the house is worth $600, $800, and instead no, it was $111. So I do go to a real estate site, and they tell me that 107 North Winthrop Road is worth about $118,000. 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, 4 basement. Neighbor down the street, only 2 bedrooms, but has 2.5 baths, is slightly more valuable. Full basement. Down on the corner, right beside the Becks, is another house that's slightly cheaper in price. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, basement. Another neighbor, $108,000, or 108 across the street, about $66,000. 2 bedroom, 1 bath, but it doesn't have a basement. Well, in my story about the malicious actors in Fort Wayne that kidnapped that bank teller, and the 2 other news stories that I found that corroborated that that wasn't a unique thing, if you were going to kidnap somebody and hold them in their home, wouldn't the basement be a good place to hold them? You're less likely to have the activity being heard or seen by neighbors. So houses with basements aren't necessarily the best thing to have. Not what I think. So I was thinking, what came to the conclusion of all this? I didn't go too deep into these people's lives. I want to point out right now that I used no paid information. I also used none of the tools that most people think of when they think close in. A lot of people nowadays when they think close in think tools like Maltico. None of that was done with this. This was all done with simple Google searches, good old Google Clue, using the information that was provided in simple clues, and then using the corroboration that other sites provided, taking each of those additional pieces of information and building a puzzle. The one thing I didn't do in this talk that a true malicious actor would have done would have been to go really deep into their Facebook profiles, really deep into their Twitter profiles, and really dig into that information. I could have done all that, and I could have exposed all of it, but I wanted to leave these 2 people people with at least some degree of dignity and some degree of privacy that I'm going to say does not exist, but will at least leave them the illusion that it does. I'm going to take off on another tangent for a moment. So, do criminals really do bad things? We can all agree that they do. Would a criminal really kill you for the information you put on the internet? We talked about a bank robbery. Now I want to talk about the information, how easy it is to get it, and how much information people put out there, and the harm that it can cause them. Like I said, this poor reporter posted something on the social media site about the actions of the Mexican cartel. They took her in the middle of the street and beheaded her, and they filmed it, and they put it on YouTube. So the actions that you do may have serious consequences. Could the information that Jenny and Angela have out there on the internet actually result in them being the victims of a serious crime? Because somebody wants to rob their bank and they're going to use them as the intermediary and they're going to threaten their families. I seriously hope not. I hope that the information I gave doesn't bring them harm. But like I said, the information was out there. I didn't have to do anything. My total research time for the information that I got was 2 hours. In 2 hours, I got a pretty darn good picture of those two people's lives. A smooth criminal or a truly malicious actor would have gotten much deeper, and they would have done it in much more depth, and they would have acted on it. So then, as an employer, let's say I'm at Old National, or I'm Forum Credit Union, or I'm in another place of business. How do I, as a business owner, as an employer, ensure that the actions that my employees take, whether personally or on social media, or the things they post on the internet, how do I make sure it doesn't affect me, my brand, my reputation? At the end of the day, you really can't. There are some places where, again, companies have legal force, but in a lot of them they don't. So what information, this information, are criminals really using it? Is this just me postulating it? Is it just penetration testers alleging that this is how we would go about doing an attack? This news story shows that, in fact, criminals right now are actively using social media against their victims, either reconnaissance purposes or making threatening allegations against a person or against a company, ruining their brand. And this article talks about the fact that they use Google Earth to plan their ingress and egress routes. They don't go and follow the person home. A smart criminal doesn't follow a person home. A smart person finds out where you live, and they find the route in and out of that neighborhood, and then they use it. There's absolutely no reason for a smart criminal to do like those bank robbers did and follow the teller home. That's just stupid. Do they use social media to choose their victims? Huge dangers in social media of posting where you're at. And I know all of us here at the conference, we tend to be like, I'm at BSides Las Vegas. It has consequences. Me, I'm smart. I have people at home. I have 4 big dogs. The people in my house are armed. Everybody's a shooter. I have cops tutored down on each side. I'm pretty comfortable in my neighborhood. In my house is pretty well protected if I post and I'm at BSides Las Vegas. But people post this kind of stuff on a daily basis. Where they're at. They're out at dinner. Not only do they do that, but if somebody goes out and posts a picture of that brand new Xbox One when they get it, or that brand new PlayStation 4 when it comes out, somebody's going to watch for those pictures, somebody's going to watch for those postings, and those people are going to be ripe for the theft of that device. I'm making this very simple case, but the burglars, small criminals are even using this, not just the big criminals like the Mexican cartel, the mob, or the small criminals, the petty thieves are using the exact same information. Do you put too much information on the internet about you? Like I said, all of us here are pretty much guilty of posting what we do. Those of us in the infosec community tend to be, while we know the dangers, we also know that we don't really have an expectation that people aren't going to find out where we're at, so we just post it. I mean, it's been on the internet that I was going to do this talk, so if I didn't say I was at BSides Las Vegas, people would assume I didn't even show up to do my talk. It's just assumed I was going to be a speaker here, I must be here. But the things that people post on the internet, oftentimes they come back and they regret it. It's pictures of them being drunk. It's pictures of them being foolish. It's something they said about their boss. It's something they said about a coworker. It's something they said about a friend. Do you know what Sally did? Well, guess what? Since you posted it on Facebook, not only does that person now know what Sally did, but Sally knows you're the one that blabbed it. So what happens to the person who talked about Sally? Defriended. Innocuous comments end up as a result of loss of contacts. And this isn't just Facebook. I want to point out the actions that you take may end up people not following your LinkedIn professionally, ignoring your LinkedIn, or never even being associated with you. They may not follow your Twitter feed. They may not follow your blog. Each of those things. This is a very simple case with regard to Facebook, but it's the exact same thing. Our country and the world are now relying on social media. And again, 13 posts that got people canned. The things you say and do, if they end up on the internet, they never leave the internet, can end up with somebody losing their job over it. Something happened at PyCon. Is anybody familiar with what happened at PyCon? The fact that somebody made a joke that somebody else took offense to, and the person who took offense commented about how offended they were. There's a joke about a dongle. Everybody's familiar with USB dongles and stuff. There's a joke about a dongle. Anyway, the first person lost their job, later got hired. The person that raised up a big, huge stink about it has made similar comments on her own Twitter feed and her own Facebook post prior to that. So her coming off as all offended looked a little duplicitous and two-faced, and the company she worked for ended up having to let her go. Stuff that you do and say can actually have repercussions. So with regard to penetration testing, we use these tools in open source intelligence as part of our job to provide scenarios that we use to provide value to the client. This is how I would go about constructing a spear phishing email. This is where I got my information, and this is the type of attack I would use. And we describe it in a scenario, and then somebody actually acts on that and proves that the spear phishing attack would work. But the spear phishing email doesn't work without the prior intelligence being done through OSINT. So I'm going to put on a white hat here for a second. I've talked kind of from the black hat, the real malicious person. I've talked about the fact we got to protect some stuff. I want to talk a little bit about being a white hat. Yay, DerbyCon. As Adrian is not even here. I'm going to put on a white hat. Near the end of my creation of this presentation, I had already had this whole, the inspiration of the bank robbery and how I would have got the information much smarter than doing the actions that those criminals did. I want to say, what if I could do this for good? What if I could put on the white hat and maybe come to the rescue, so to speak, and solve an issue, solve a problem? I didn't go that far, but I want to show that maybe this same stuff can be used the same way. So I don't know if anybody is familiar with skip chasing, but a skip chaser or a bounty hunter, they use a lot of the same techniques. They try and find some of the same information. Historically, they've gone about it, do some real hard things of literally following people in a neighborhood, taking pictures, trying to find out who somebody talks to. So I went to Omaha's Most Wanted. It was my Most Wanted, and one of them was Omaha. And so I went to Omaha's Most Wanted page, and I found this young man, Cameron Burton. He's 21, give me his date of birth. He's wanted because he was involved in a shooting. So what happens when somebody gets arrested and they go out on bond is somebody posts that bond and they give some information, like 3 to 5 people to contact. This person, we're going to put up the money to actually bond the person out, the bondsman is. And so they're going to want to know, if I need to find that person, who do I talk to? Who are your parents? Who are your neighbors? Who do I talk to if I need to find you? I would allege that in a lot of cases that information is falsified. Or even if it's not falsified, if somebody were ready to give their mom's name and address and phone number, if you were to call that person's mom, I don't know where he is. I don't know where she is. So, Cameron Burton, how many Cameron Burtons can there be in Omaha, Nebraska? Well, I found this one, and there's a webcam photo here. It's of a nice looking lady's webcam picture up in the corner. I'm thinking this might be the exact same young man from that wanted picture just a moment ago. He worked in roofing, went to Omaha North High School, lives in Omaha, Nebraska. So how many Cameron Burtons can there be in Omaha, Nebraska? Well, if I go into his photos, I find this photo And I'm not 100% positive, but I'm about 99.999% positive that that's the exact same Cameron Burton that I just saw. We're going to examine that Facebook profile picture there. A nice looking young lady, and again, slightly better view of the picture of Mr. Burton up in the upper right hand corner with some comments down there. Y'all are so cute, you miss each other. We sure do. Why do they miss each other? Why do they miss each other? And then there's a Corey, future Mrs. Jones Burton. Aw, I love you too. Well, these two people must be together. This person that I assume is Mr. Burton and this young lady. Dusty Carlsey, we love you too. I'm thinking that Dusty Carlsey might be the other person in the picture. If Cameron says, oh, thank you, and the other person says, oh, we love you too, I'm thinking that's the other person. So I go to take a look at Cameron's Facebook friends. Because if you're trying to find Cameron, the police are actively looking for Cameron. They don't know where he is. Do you think one of these people might know? Or if not one of these people that I've shown, maybe one of the total of 77 Facebook friends that he has, might one of them actually know where Mr. Burton is? And the young Miss Dusty Carlsey up there, there's a picture of a nice young man there sitting next to her. I sincerely hope that it's not his father, it's the one going on. But I look at her Facebook photos, and I can see that there must be romantically involved. Do we really think that maybe Dusty might know where Cameron is? I'm willing to bet that there's a pretty good chance that she might. Not guaranteed, but that she might indeed know where Mr. Burton is. There was a Cody Burton mentioned. It appears that Cody Burton, from my other research, Cody has 2 Facebook pages. Cody is the brother of Cameron. The mother's name is Corey, future Mrs. Jones Burton. There's an aunt named Connie Burton. These people have a thing with C. First initial C, last name Burton. There's a real big theme going on in this family. Or there's a cousin down there. You think these people might actually know where Mr. Burton is at? So again, putting on my white hat, I'm like, the information that might be put on a bail bonds application, or that the police might have on file for young Mr. Burton, is probably incomplete. But thanks to the miracle of the internet, we can get an entire picture of all those people that are involved in his life that might know where he is. And with regard to bounty hunters and skip chasers, they're pretty unrestricted on what they can do. If they want to go find out if Mr. Burton was one of those people's houses, they can do it. So that was fun. I didn't go as in-depth with Mr. Burton as I did with the banking employees. And again, I didn't go so deep into the banking employees that I really exposed them to, hopefully, any more danger than they might already have been in. So that was fun. Just to see one more piece of information, I went back to Dusty Carlsey's thing, and I found out, wait a minute, Dusty's in Tennessee. The police can't find our young Mr. Burton. Dusty and Cameron are pretty heavily involved. I'm thinking maybe Cameron's in Tennessee, either Mount Juliet or Lebanon, Tennessee, given that those are 2 towns that are mentioned in Dusty's profile. That's not a true indicator. He may or may not be there. But for investigative purposes, I'm willing to bet that at some point law enforcement should maybe look into investigating into those locations. So that being said, if any of you know a bail bondsman or a private detective who does this kind of work and has been doing it the old gumshoe way, I encourage you to have them contact me, because I don't have to move to their city. I don't have to live in their town. I can do this from the comfort of my own chair in my home office. The same way I do when I do help home security with a penetration test. I don't have to leave my house to do OSINT. I got all this information without ever having to follow anybody. And in nod to my mentor thought that maybe I could talk about actively going and getting information, like digging through somebody's garbage, and doing other methods like that, actually doing surveillance, taking photos. But the impetus behind my talk was I didn't want to show that information because that all can be done. That's all actionable intelligence. But it again exposes the individual to a risk. And my comment back at the beginning about being a smooth criminal was to stay as far away from the actual location as possible to show that I could get this information from a nice comfy chair in my house. I want to thank you guys. I hope I gave you a little bit of insight on what OSINT is about and what it can do. and how easy the information is to get. And then nod to Adrian, who's in the audience. Adrian did a great hosting workshop in Fort Wayne, Indiana for our ISSA chapter 2 years ago.
Been a while, yeah, sometime in 2011.
So anyway, my contact information is up there. Like I said, I'm a systems administrator by day. That's my day job. I've got some fancy certifications up there in education. My Twitter handle is @Wolflight. That's my website, not the company's website that I work for. That's my website, wftis.com. And my email address, that's my personal email. That's the one that goes to my house that I check on a regular basis. I'm sorry, Terry, I didn't check in the past couple of days. Anyway, I want to thank you guys. Does anybody have any questions about methodologies or does anybody have any comments on another way I might have approached those scenarios? Because all this good information, when I'm doing a penetration test and I'm trying to provide a scenario, why did I get the information that I did, and what was my thinking behind doing it, so that when you go to a client and you have that nice report, you go, okay, well, this is where we think the threat vector might have came from. So every information is good.
So how much do you think the searching can be automated?
I use automated tools. When all of the other intelligence is starting to get harder to find, I switch to automated tools. I don't start with automated tools. Automation is fine, but it's going to miss a lot of the pieces that were in the cracks. I could have used Maltego. I could have shown that with a tool like Maltego, I could have gotten more information. I could have shown a lot of other stuff. I could have shown like the IPs that are used within the bank and maybe done some other stuff. But I didn't want to use an automated tool because I wanted to show that none of this that I did requires an automated tool. It requires a mindset of trying to approach it from the outside and do some puzzle solving, some problem solving, so to speak. Anybody else? Scare anybody? I hope if Angela Beck or Jenny Boudreau happen to see this video, somebody points it out to them, I hope I don't scare them too much. I want them to know that I have their best interests at heart. I have the reason for giving this talk is to show that we all need to be a little bit more aware of the information that we have out there and what could be done with it. Thank you guys very much.